Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels Nation. I think we're going with that now. Everybody that likes Tim Travels is part of Tim Travels Nation. I'm your host, Terry. Tim, of course, is on an extended hiatus, an extended vacation. Haven't heard from him in a while, but maybe he'll send us a postcard or something I can show you guys. So I wanted to take some time today quickly to Beatrice has decided that there's something very interesting outside the truck. She actually, when we get to a truck stop, she likes to monitor how people are parking and stuff. But I wanted to take a second to kind of follow up on some of the stuff I talked about in a previous video where I discussed, drivers changing companies. And I titled this video, "When a Dollar Isn't a Dollar," for this reason. A lot of companies pay about the same. And they have various, I'll call them schemes, not meaning anything illegal, but just various ways of paying people and having a total compensation package. But one of the things that separates companies from each other is how they respect drivers' time. And what I mean by that is not, well, how soon do they pay detention or breakdown or some other kind of accessorial pay, but what do they require you to do just to get your normal pay? Like, how much effort do you have to put into it? And while it would seem like, the standard answer is, well, you just submit a trip report and maybe a bill of lading and whatever other paperwork they want, and then there you go. You'll get paid for it. But I want to drill down on that a little bit, because one of the things that a lot of companies don't do is employ technology. They don't spend the money. They don't invest in solid technology that allows the drivers to quickly do the things it takes to get paid, do the things it takes to communicate. And let me give you an example. The company I drive for now, Transco, does not require me to use a Qualcomm or another device like that. For instance, Knight has a, I believe it's a proprietary device and program called Zonar, but it's essentially the same as a Qualcomm. But I don't have to do an arrival call. I don't have to do a departure call. I don't have to do a loaded call. I don't have to do some kind of macro when I hook a trailer so they know the trailer number. I don't have to, like when you have a load, like for instance, over the weekend I had a load where I actually had 3 stops. Any of you have ever done a 3-stop load with some company that uses Qualcomm or some system like that knows you spend half the day just sending out all those, first stop, second stop, this, all that additional information. And, the other thing is, at night, they were like, who signed the bill of lading? Like, you had to put that in Zonar. You had to, sorry, the sun is kind of really kicking right now. See if I can fix that. There we go. That's a little better. One of the other things is you had to put the seal number, so you had to make sure you had that all that information. You had to put the weight. Even before you scaled, you're supposed to put down what the weight was. And all that takes time. Now you say, in a narrow view of it, for one load, it doesn't take a lot of time. It takes maybe an extra 5 minutes when you get somewhere or when you leave. But you're doing that in addition to manipulating your logs and doing those things that you have to do to stay legal. So my company doesn't require any of that. So all I have to do when I get to a shipper is go inside. I don't have to send an arrival call. I just go inside, say, hey, I'm here for this load. All the information is on my phone, right? Because we have a proprietary app at GP Transco. And I give them the information they need. They say, back into door 22, let's say. I back into door 22, and I might send a message to my driver manager via text that says, hey, I'm at a door. And, he kind of keeps track of how long it takes, etc. And then I just, in that same app that has the information on the load, I just tap that I'm in transit. And that's the same way I accept a load. And then in that app is where my paperwork gets uploaded. But so when the job is finished, I don't fill out a trip sheet. I don't fill out one of those stupid bubble sheets. I don't have to put down, trailer information, truck information. To me, it's so dumb that I would have to put down my driver ID, my name, my truck number. All of that stuff is the same. Then the load number and a bunch of other information. And one company, I had to, and this is again another time killer, time waster, I had to collect my receipts. Not only did I have to get my printed receipts when I fueled, but then I had to take that information on the receipt and put how many gallons of diesel I used and what it cost, even though they're getting it in their statement from EFS, and how much DEF I used, how many gallons of DEF I pumped, and what it cost. And that's all stuff that takes up my time, and it's uncompensated. So if you have a company that's way more efficient in how it uses driver time, you have a company that really pays you more, all other things being equal. So when I say a dollar isn't a dollar, what I mean by that is, if you drive a trip that's 1,000 miles and you do it for 50 cents a mile, the company that makes you do the least amount of extraneous work, of extra work, to get paid that $500, and again, that's just gross, that's the company that pays you more. Because it is true, time is money. So when you're thinking about a company to go to, think about that too. Think about, how do these guys use my time? Or maybe a better way to put it is, how much do they value my time? Because if a company doesn't value your time, then do they really value you? Because at the end of the day, a lot of what a truck driver sells to his company is his time. Now, it's time doing something, but as we know, a lot of us are just steering wheel holders, right? Well, if you're just holding the steering wheel, for 500 miles a day, we can translate that cents per mile and miles driven into an hourly rate. So we are getting paid for our time. You know, there are other time wasters that companies have. One time waster that I dealt with at one company was I had to keep beating on my DM to get paid for layovers or detention, stuff like that. The DM I have now, and again, maybe this is just the quality of the DM. The DM I have now just automatically does it. I don't have to ask for it. You know, the other day I did a short video. I got stopped because of high winds. He automatically was like, "Oh, hey, I'm giving you X because you had a weather delay." Then I got my two steers replaced last night at our terminal, but because I had a few hours left on my clock, he's like, "Well, I'll pay you for breakdown, you know, for getting serviced." And then the stops that I made, I mentioned I had a trip where I made 3 stops. On 2 of those stops, I had to use a pallet jack to bring pallets to the back of my trailer because there weren't loading docks at these 2 places I went. So he asked the question, "Did you have to help him?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, I'll pay you for that." And I don't have to worry about stuff like that. I don't have to follow up over and over again. I don't get the hierarchical runaround. Like one time I spent 29 hours somewhere and I'm convinced that it was because my DM just screwed up. And then when I asked him about the, you know, getting some compensation for that, it took literally like almost a month. And then I was like, "Are you ever going to pay me for this?" He's like, "Oh, you got to talk to so-and-so." I call this other person at the company headquarters and she's like, "That's your DM's job." And that was only one example. Here's another example of not taking care of your drivers. Same company, I'm on the West Virginia toll road, turnpike, whatever you call 77 running through West Virginia. For some reason, I decided not to go to the Easy Pass lane. Maybe because there were already a couple of trucks lined up, so I just went to the regular toll lane, and if you have an Easy Pass, it'll just, you know, kind of wave you through. Well, my Easy Pass didn't trigger the green light, so I stopped. And, you know, I said to the toll collector, "I got an Easy Pass. You know, I don't know what's going on." And so I had to get because it didn't work, I had to get my registration out and fill out all this paperwork while I'm sitting at the toll plaza. I had to do that 3 times total because there's 3 toll plazas. And the people there were very nice about it, but I had a truck without an Easy Pass that worked. When I got stopped that night, I called them and they're like, "Oh yeah, just put it on your trip report and we'll reimburse you for it." And my response was, "No, you don't get it. I don't carry that kind of cash," because I think the toll is like, I want to say it was like maybe $30, $31 for each of those stops. So I was like, I don't have that much cash on me to pay those tolls. And so I said, "I'm going to send you these toll tickets," and they're basically toll invoices. And I said, "And you only got 15 days to pay them or they're going to double in cost." And it was the toll plus like a fine, a service charge for not having a working Easy Pass. So that took a bunch of time, right? And that same company, I actually had to use Transco to put in my my trip reports and run fuel receipts through the Transco. Very time consuming. So yeah, I made more money technically than I had made at a previous employer, but I don't know that it really paid me any more for my time. So, those are kind of like the administrative things. The other thing that's a time suck is getting shops to work on your truck. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. GP Transco has really good mechanics who get the job done correctly and quickly. When I first got out of training at night, I waited 8 days for a truck to be ready for me. Like the shop couldn't seem to get it done. 8 days. Now I got compensated, but not as much as I would have made if I was driving. And here's the rub about that whole thing. I waited 8 days and that truck only made it 400 miles before it had to be back in the shop. And I never drove that truck another day because by that point it had another stay of another 5 to 6 days that it was going to have to be in the shop at the next terminal I made it to. That's time. It's not okay. Same company, took 5 hours to change an airline on my tractor. There are companies that have procedures that take up a lot of time. I went to the shop, I'm like, hey, I need an airline, because I was actually on my way out of that terminal. I need an airline. Well, you have to go through the line with your trailer, even though I knew what was wrong. What do they call that? The service line? I can't remember, but on more than one occasion, I had to do that for something, ridiculous, when I was like, yeah, I know exactly what I need. So again, value your time, even though you don't get paid by the hour, because at the end of the day, you can attribute how much you make on a daily basis, and companies that waste your time pay you less. I don't care what your paycheck says. If they made you work 20 hours to get $1,000 and another company only made you work 18 to get the same $1,000, the company that only made you work 18 pays you more. And you can look at it a different way, but you're just whistling past the graveyard when you're doing that, because it all adds up. And it's like anything else. It's a little tiny thing when you're doing one trip, but when you're doing 150, 175 trips a year, it really adds up. So I share that with you. I appreciate the questions people have had, the comments. If you like what you're hearing, subscribe, like the videos. Again, I'm happy to respond to comments and give you straight information and just my view of how to look at things and how to create value for yourself. Again, I apologize for the sun. It's a little bit weird today, and it's kind of bouncing off my hoodie. Be safe out there, and see you next time on Tim Travels.